Today we're diving into something pretty fascinating, the whole spiritual but not religious thing.
Yeah, SBNR, as it's often called.
Exactly, SBNR, and it seems like more and more people are identifying that way.
It really is a growing trend, especially in Western societies.
So we're talking about people who are seeking meaning and purpose and connection.
But they're doing it outside of traditional religious institutions.
Right, and for this deep dive, you've given me a ton of material.
I have research articles, some sociological studies,
Even personal stories from people who identify as SBNR.
a really wide range of perspectives.
And our mission here is to kind of get to the heart of this whole SBNR thing,
to understand where it comes from.
what defines it, and what it might mean for the future of spirituality.
Exactly.
So let's start with what's fueling this rise of SBNR.
Well, it seems like there are a few big cultural shifts happening all at the same time.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest is individualism, this focus on personal autonomy and self-expression.
And that's affecting spirituality.
Absolutely. People want to create their own spiritual path.
Rather than just following someone else's doctrine.
Exactly.
Now, that makes me think about one of the articles you shared, the one about declining religious affiliation.
Oh, right. Especially among younger generations.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, the research suggests a lot of reasons. People feel disillusioned with organized religion.
Like they're not connecting with it.
Right. Some see it as too dogmatic or hypocritical, out of touch with modern issues.
Then you have the influence of New Age movements.
Which has been huge.
Things like meditation and mindfulness, they're everywhere now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the New Age movement really helped to popularize those practices.
It emphasized personal growth, inner peace, connecting to something bigger than yourself.
But often outside of traditional religion.
Right. And then there's globalization,
Which has exposed people to all sorts of different beliefs and cultures.
making it easier to personalize your spirituality.
Exactly. You're not limited to what you grew up.
So we have individualism, declining religious affiliation, the New Age influence, and globalization.
All converging to create the perfect environment for SBNR to emerge.
Fascinating. So what does it actually mean to be spiritual but not religious?
Let's unpack that.
One thing that keeps coming up in the material is this idea of personalized spirituality.
That's a core part of SBNR.
What do you mean?
It means people create their own unique spiritual frameworks.
So it's not about following a specific religion.
No, it's about blending elements from different traditions.
Taking what resonates with you personally.
Exactly. It's about finding what feels authentic.
Now, a lot of SBNRs seem skeptical of organized religion. Why is that?
Well, they have a few common concerns. Some feel like religious institutions are too rigid, too hierarchical,
Some are turned off by past wrongdoings.
or feel like religion isn't addressing the issues we face today.
And there's this big emphasis on inner experience over rituals or doctrines.
Definitely. For SBNR, subjective experience is key.
Things like feeling awe in nature or a sense of connection during meditation.
Moments of transcendence that give you meaning and insight.
So it's about cultivating that direct connection with the sacred, however you define it.
That's it. Finding meaning in your lived experience, not just relying on external structures or dogma.
Now, what about ethics? Do SBNRs have a moral code?
They do. Many prioritize values like compassion, kindness, environmentalism, social justice.
But it's not necessarily coming from a religious text.
Right. It's more of an internal sense of what's right.
And they try to live by those values.
Absolutely.
Now, the question of God or a higher power, how do SBNRs approach that?
It's really diverse. Some believe in a higher power, but maybe not the traditional idea of God.
Some are more pantheistic, seeing the divine in everything.
Others identify as agnostic.
So it's not about adhering to a specific belief about God.
Right. It's more about finding meaning and connection, regardless of your theological views.
So we're seeing this really complex picture emerge.
It's multifaceted.
Personalized spirituality, questioning organized religion, emphasizing inner experience.
And a wide range of views on the divine.
It's all part of the SBNR landscape.
And understanding these nuances is really important.
Especially if we want to talk about what this movement means. So what are the potential benefits and challenges of this approach to spirituality?
That's a great question. The SBNR path has its advantages.
But also its complexities.
For sure.
Let's start with the good stuff. What are some of the benefits?
Well, one of the biggest is freedom. You can tailor your spiritual practices to your own needs.
You're not bound by doctrines or rituals.
Yes,
It's about finding what resonates with you.
and creating a path that feels authentic and meaningful.
That sounds empowering.
It can be. It encourages self-discovery and personal growth.
Helping you connect with your inner wisdom.
And understand yourself and your place in the world better.
I imagine it also opens up more opportunities for interfaith dialogue.
Definitely, when you're not confined to one tradition, you're more open to engaging with different perspectives.
Leading to more empathy and understanding,
And a sense of shared humanity.
recognizing those common threads that run through different spiritual paths.
Celebrating the richness of human experience in all its forms.
It's a more inclusive approach to spirituality.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about the challenges. What are some of the drawbacks you've come across in your research?
Well, one concern is the potential for isolation.
Because traditional religions often provide that sense of community and support.
Right, so if you're on a more solitary spiritual path,
You might miss out on that, especially during tough times.
that's a valid concern.
There's also the challenge of balancing personal growth with social responsibility.
Yes. It's easy to get caught up in your own needs and desires.
So how do you make sure spirituality doesn't become too self-centered
It's about staying engaged with the world's challenges,
and making sure your personal growth translates into positive action?
contributing to the well-being of others.
Some people also worry about superficial engagement with different traditions,
Yeah, there's a risk as picking and choosing elements without really understanding them.
leading to cultural appropriation or a diluted understanding.
It's important to approach different traditions with respect and humility.
To really learn and understand before adopting practices.
Absolutely.
And what about ethics? How do you make decisions without a clear set of rules?
It's a good question. For SBNRs, it often comes down to relying on their own internal compass.
Their own sense of values, like compassion and fairness.
Right. But that can be tough when dealing with complex issues.
So the flexibility of SBNR also demands more introspection and intentionality.
You have to be more thoughtful about your choices and actions,
Because ultimately, you're responsible for your own spiritual journey.
and how it impacts you and the world around you.
This exploration of the SBNR movement has been really insightful.
It is fascinating.
We've uncovered so many different motivations and beliefs and practices.
It's a rich tapestry.
But what does it all mean for the future of spirituality as a whole?
Now that's the big question.
The rise of SBNR has huge implications.
For how we understand faith and meaning-making in the 21st century,
It forces us to rethink the role of spirituality in society.
and how we connect with the sacred in this rapidly changing world.
Do you think traditional religious institutions will need to adapt to stay relevant?
It's definitely possible. A lot of them are struggling with how to engage people who are seeking outside of those traditional frameworks,
The SBNR movement is challenging them to be more inclusive.
and to address concerns about relevance
It's prompting some serious introspection.
and potentially some adaptation.
One of the studies you gave me talked about the need for more openness and acceptance within religious institutions.
It's true. A lot of SBNRs feel alienated by what they see as exclusivity or judgment.
So creating a more welcoming environment could be key.
Definitely.
It also seems like religions need to find ways to connect their teachings to contemporary issues.
Absolutely. People are looking for guidance on ethical dilemmas, finding purpose, coping with modern life.
And they want that guidance to feel relevant.
If religions can offer meaningful insights in those areas,
They're more likely to resonate with people.
whether those people identify with a specific religion or not.
It's also interesting to see how the SBNR movement is influencing the whole conversation about mental health.
Mindfulness and contemplative practices are more popular than ever.
And SBNRs are often at the forefront of that.
It reflects a growing awareness of the importance of mental well-being.
And those practices, which were once seen as alternative,
Are now being integrated into mainstream healthcare.
it's amazing.
It really is.
It shows the power of these practices to help people manage stress and anxiety.
And to live more balanced and fulfilling lives.
One of the personal stories you shared talked about how mindfulness completely changed someone's perspective and well-being.
There are so many stories like that.
It's a testament to the potential of SBNR.
To contribute to a more holistic understanding of health and well-being.
Recognizing that mind, body, and spirit are all connected.
Exactly.
Now, the emphasis on personal exploration and open-mindedness in SBNR.
It really sets the stage for greater interfaith dialogue.
When people are willing to step outside their own beliefs,
And engage with different perspectives.
it creates more empathy and understanding.
Which is so important in a world that's often divided by religion or ideology.
Several of the sociological studies you included really emphasize the importance of interfaith dialogue.
It's a powerful tool for breaking down barriers and promoting peace,
Highlighting the values that unite us.
like compassion, kindness, the desire for a more just and harmonious world.
And the SBNR movement, with its openness to diverse views.
It can play a big role in facilitating that kind of dialogue.
Now, SBNR offers a lot of positive possibility,
It does.
but there are also challenges,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to social cohesion.
As more people embrace this individualized spirituality,
It could weaken that sense of collective identity that often comes from shared beliefs and traditions.
that's a valid concern.
So how do we balance that?
How do we nurture both individual exploration and a sense of collective purpose?
It's a complex question.
It is.
It's about finding ways to create spaces where people from different backgrounds can come together,
Share their experiences,
build bridges of understanding based on shared values.
even if their spiritual practices are different.
One of the sources you shared, a philosophical essay,
Yes, I remember that one.
it suggested that SBNR could lead to new forms of community,
Not bound by traditional religious structures.
but united by shared values and a commitment to making the world a better place.
It's an intriguing idea.
As those traditional structures continue to evolve,
We might see more fluid and dynamic forms of connection emerge.
based on shared aspirations for a better future.
And the SBNR movement, with its emphasis on authenticity and ethical living.
It could be a catalyst for that kind of transformation.
Absolutely.
It's clear that the rise of spiritual, but not religious,
It's both a reflection of and a catalyst for a broader societal shift,
it shows how spirituality is evolving.
and how we're having to find new ways to connect with the sacred and with each other.
In this rapidly changing world.
It's a fascinating time.
It really is.
It challenges us to rethink our assumptions about faith and meaning-making.
And even the very fabric of our societies.
This exploration of SBNR, it opens up a conversation that's both complex and vital.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
I agree.
We've shed light on the multifaceted nature of the SBNR movement.
It's been a rich exploration,
We've covered its origins, its characteristics, its potential impact,
both for individuals and society as a whole.
and we've talked about the challenges it presents.
The need to find balance between individual exploration and community.
And how to create a more inclusive and compassionate world.
It's an ongoing conversation,
It is,
and we have to approach it with curiosity and open minds.
and a willingness to learn and grow from each other.
Because exploring spirituality is a continuous journey.
It's a journey that invites us to connect with something greater than ourselves.
And the rise of spiritual but not religious.
It's a powerful reminder that the search for meaning is a deeply personal and ever-evolving process.
And it has the potential to shape not only our own lives.
But the world around us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of spiritual but not religious.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights
And that your curiosity has been sparked.
to keep engaging with these important ideas.
It's a conversation worth continuing. And it really makes you think about how we create those spaces for authentic expression.
While still fostering a sense of belonging and purpose.
It's a challenge.
You mentioned earlier that traditional religious institutions might need to adapt.
To stay relevant.
Yeah. Do you really think so?
I think it's a real possibility. Many established religions are grappling with this.
With how to engage people who are searching for something outside the traditional frameworks?
Exactly. The SBNR movement is pushing them to rethink their approach.
One of the studies you provided highlighted the need for more openness and acceptance.
Within those institutions,
Yeah, a lot of people who identify as SBNR.
they feel alienated by what they see as exclusivity or judgment.
So creating a more welcoming environment.
That could be a big step.
It seems like religions might also need to connect their teachings to modern-day issues.
Absolutely. People are looking for guidance on things like ethical dilemmas,
Finding purpose in a world that's constantly changing.
coping with the complexities of modern life.
And they want that guidance to feel relevant to their lives.
Exactly. If religions can offer real insights in those areas,
They're more likely to connect with people.
regardless of whether those people identify with a specific religion or not.
And it's fascinating to see how the SBNR movement is influencing this whole conversation about mental health.
Yeah, mindfulness and contemplative practices have become so mainstream.
And SBNRs are often leading the way.
It reflects a growing awareness of how important mental well-being is.
And these practices that were once seen as kind of out there,
They're now being integrated into healthcare and wellness programs.
it's pretty remarkable.
It really is.
It speaks to the power of these practices to help people manage stress
To cope with anxiety.
and live more fulfilling lives.
To find a sense of balance.
One of the personal stories you shared really stood out to me.
Oh, which one?
The one where someone talked about how mindfulness completely changed their outlook on life.
And their overall well-being.
It's just one example.
But there are so many stories like that.
It really highlights the potential of SBNR.
To contribute to a more holistic view of health and well-being.
Recognizing that connection between mind, body, and spirit.
It's all intertwined.
And that emphasis on personal exploration and open-mindedness within SBNR.
It naturally leads to more interfaith dialogue and understanding.
When people are willing to step outside their own belief systems
And engage with different perspectives.
it cultivates empathy and respect,
It helps us see our shared humanity.
which is so crucial in a world that's often divided along religious or ideological lines.
Exactly.
Several of the sociological studies you shared really emphasize the importance of that interfaith dialogue.
It's a powerful way to break down barriers,
And to promote peace,
to focus on those values that unite us.
compassion, kindness, the desire for a more just and harmonious world
And the SBNR movement,
with its inherent openness.
it's well-positioned to facilitate that kind of dialogue.
Now, while SBNR offers a lot of positive potential,
It does.
there are also some unique challenges that come with it.
Like what?
Well, we talked about social cohesion.
Right. The potential for individualized spirituality to weaken that sense of collective identity.
That often comes from shared beliefs and traditions.
It's a valid concern.
So how do we navigate that tension
How do we support individual exploration?
while also nurturing a sense of community and shared purpose?
It's a balancing act.
It really is.
We need to find ways to create spaces where people from all different backgrounds can come together
And share their experiences
and build those bridges of understanding,
based on shared values.
even if their spiritual practices differ.
One of the sources you gave me, a philosophical essay,
I think I know the one you're talking about.
it suggested that the rise of SBNR could actually lead to new forms of community,
Not necessarily tied to traditional religious structures.
but united by a shared vision for a better world.
I find that idea really compelling.
As those traditional structures continue to evolve
We might see the emergence of these more fluid and dynamic forms of connection.
based on shared aspirations for a more just and compassionate future.
It's exciting to think about.
And the SBNR movement, with its emphasis on authenticity and ethical living.
It could be a driving force behind that transformation.
It seems like the rise of spiritual, but not religious,
It's both a reflection of and a driving force behind a much broader societal shift.
it shows how our understanding of spirituality is evolving,
And how we're searching for new ways to connect with the sacred.
and with each other.
In a world that's constantly changing.
It challenges us to question our assumptions about faith
About meaning-making.
and about how we build our communities.
This exploration of SBNR,
It's sparked a conversation.
that's both complex and incredibly important. It really does make you think about how we define community in the 21st century.
And how those definitions are changing.
Exactly.
Maybe SBNR is pushing us to look beyond those traditional structures.
To find new ways of connecting.
Based on shared values and aspirations?
Right, not necessarily on shared religious beliefs.
You mentioned earlier that some people are forming spiritual but not religious communities.
Yes, there's definitely a growing trend of that.
Groups of people who come together outside of formal religious settings.
To explore spirituality, to practice mindfulness, to engage in social action.
And it's all grounded in a shared set of ethical principles.
Exactly. It's about finding a sense of belonging and purpose.
But without necessarily adhering to a specific religious doctrine.
And these communities can provide a real sense of support.
Especially for people who feel disconnected from traditional religious institutions.
They offer a space to explore spirituality in a way that feels authentic and relevant.
It's a fascinating evolution.
It really is.
These new forms of community could be a significant development in how we understand spirituality.
It's a shift toward a more personalized and fluid approach.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
It's clear that the rise of spiritual, but not religious, is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon.
it's a reflection of the human need for meaning and connection.
And transcendence.
And it's happening even as those traditional structures of faith continue to change.
It's a really interesting time to be exploring these ideas.
The SBNR movement is pushing us to have deeper conversations about the nature of spirituality
The role of religion in society.
and the search for meaning in a world that's constantly evolving.
It challenges us to be open-minded.
To embrace the complexity of these individual and collective journeys,
And to recognize that the search for meaning is a process.
a process that's always unfolding.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been incredibly enriching.
I agree.
We've explored the factors driving the rise of SBNR,
The diverse beliefs and practices that define it.
its potential impact on the future of spirituality,
and the challenges it presents.
It's been a really thought-provoking conversation.
I think so too.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
from the individual search for meaning to the broader implications for society.
It's all connected.
And ultimately, the exploration of spirituality is an ongoing journey,
It is
a journey of learning, growth, and connection.
to something greater than ourselves.
The rise of spiritual but not religious reminds us that this search for meaning
It's deeply personal.
and constantly evolving,
And it has the power to shape not only our own lives,
but the world around us.
it's a beautiful thing.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of spiritual but not religious.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope this exploration has given you some food for thought.
And it inspired you to continue exploring these important ideas.